What's up, Josh? How's it going, man?
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I appreciate coming in and take the time to do this with me. I think it's going to be good.
Yes, I appreciate you helping me out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I'm going to record the stuff, and if it's okay with you, maybe use it to share kind of the background of how you got to where you got and how we helped you out, if that's
Yes,
cool
sir.
with you.
That's fine.
All right, great. So, first and foremost, can you kind of like just go on an overview of where your claim was at, how long you'd been in service, what your original rating was, what brought you to Mill to Millions, and just
Okay.
kind of before we met?
Okay. Yeah. So, before we met, originally, I think my original service connection was about 40%, and when they did some of my evaluations, when they sent me to like the CMP exams, like to follow up with like some of my back injuries and stuff, they found like I had like more weakness in my left leg than my right because I messed up my back pretty bad. So initially, they increased it from my exam, like following up on me when they saw like the weakness that I had, like in my extremities and stuff like that. So they increased it. Then I think it went up to about 70%, and then I went and saw Dr. Wheeler and um like stuff that was connected to my service connected as far as like the PTSD, and
Hmm.
then he was able to get that, and I was at 90%. And then that's when I contacted the job because with how my rating was and stuff like that. Um, I was told by different professionals and stuff like that it's really hard to like get 100%, like
Right, just because
because like
the math system and
yeah,
how you're getting closer and closer with
exactly,
the remainder system.
yeah. So they were like saying like kind of like you were saying too, like don't go for like musculoskeletal conditions because they're pretty much like maxed out. Like you have to go at it at another angle, and then
Right,
like the
which is
PTSD.
hard because I'm an orthopedic guy, so it's frustrating because I know there's a lot of things that are out there, but they're very difficult to get high ratings, and especially when you get in that 90% range, it doesn't move the needle a lot of times. So you spend all this time and effort on things that are commonsensical, but then the VA doesn't reward it with a good rating. So,
Yes, sir.
and I remember our first talk, and one of the reasons I want to talk to you, you got 100%, that's awesome, but the
Yes, sir.
way we got you over the hump to 90% is a very common type of client that we see, right? And I think that's where we do things a little differently and a little more. I think that's where some of the methods that we use to get people service connection, but get high service connection, get people over that 80 to 90% hump. Because no offense to a lot of other companies or individuals or organizations that do this, but it's pretty easy relatively to get people to 80 or 90%, but that last little bit
Yeah.
is tough. And a lot of people will get there, but that's a huge difference between 90 and 100%, a couple $1,000s, different benefit
Oh yeah.
profile, permanent and total status, tax breaks. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I remember when we talked, you were at 90%, right? And I took
Hmm.
notes and all the things about your background. You sent the RDL, so I knew what we had in front of us. I think that was back in like mid-November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Uh, we talked in November. As it sits today, it's early February 2025. So getting it done within a couple months, realistically, I'm pretty proud
And
of that.
honestly, it would have been done faster. Remember that the VA, my doctor is really good. The care team staff isn't. So remember, I told you like they were supposed to come back and schedule in like a week, and
Hmm.
they completely forgot. And then like Hurricane Helene destroyed our facility. So
Hmm.
once it got destroyed, they were supposed to see me soon, and then they passed me up to Greenville, and Greenville hung up on me, and nobody ever called me back. And so once I told them that, they tried to kind of fit me in like as soon as possible. But honestly, this would have been done a lot sooner had the VA, not completely just forgot about me. Like they literally just didn't schedule my appointment, even though I talked to the nurse and everything, and the doctor already prescribed me medicine to start. They just didn't schedule an appointment.
Right. And that's what's frustrating. And, again, there's good people within that big system in the VA that, care about people. But, in reality, a lot of times I see people who slip through the cracks, and, it's not confidence inspiring for patients or veterans, to want to go back when they know they're getting the runaround. But
Yes,
I'm
sir.
glad you
That's
stuck with it.
definitely
And
true.
one of the things I really wanted to highlight today was, how important the actual evidence is in your case, right? Like getting
Yes, sir.
seen again, because we went two routes. And I think it's pretty important because, we went for gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, and then
Mhm.
we also went for migraines, right?
Yes,
But
sir.
without new and updated medical treatment, it fails. But you did a great job. You got seen by your own primary care doctor, whether it was VA or civilian, for other folks listening that, it doesn't really matter, but you got the evidence, you got it to me. And
Yes, sir.
then I called you back after our initial talk and we did a
Mhm.
DBQ session. So can you explain to people out there kind of in your own words, like what was that process for you and like what were the elements of like what is a DBQ to you and how did you file your claim?
Okay. So yeah, like once I basically went through and did my portion with the primary care, like getting the information to you and making sure they put specifics such as like what you're being seen for, the treatment plan, medications if any, stuff like that. Like like, but you was pretty seamless, sent it to you, and you went through the file and let me know it was good. And then like scheduling the interview for us to go over it or like any questions or something like that took like maybe what 5-10 minutes. And then after that, the most time consuming portion would have been submitting the claim, and which your team was very helpful with, because I know when I was submitting it, trying to get my documents, because I was trying to do it all online, they, even though you click the button to like kind of not get all the junk in there, it still comes like no matter how much you try to shrink the file, because they were like you don't want them looking at stuff that doesn't matter or that's unapplicable. You only want to put what you need as a
Right, exactly. Kind of like put it on a silver
diagnosis,
platter
all that
for
stuff.
them,
So
the meat,
like
the
it's
meat
hard.
of the meal. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So exactly, they don't need to look at anything else. And that was the hardest part. That took me about, with me being in school and having shadow doctors and all that other stuff. It took me a while because trying to go in the system and play with it, it's a little weird. Like I said, like you can keep trying to chop it, but some things it just when you click all the stuff out of the report, it'll still go in the report. So I was able to trim it as much as I possibly could. And then from there, I
Yeah.
mean, everything else like with the DBQs, what you submitted, and then using like the software like I think I talking to Josh, and like the statement that you wrote, like using like your professional language and putting it in chat GPT when it asks you, to give a comment in 300 characters or less to summarize your condition and everything like that. Like it perfectly summarized exactly what you said, the condition and what you have going on. So that was like nice and precise and straight to the point. So they don't have to, think about what's going on. And yeah, I mean, after that, after honestly, me getting my medical documentation from I think it's like they do like the blue one or some type of blue report when you go on the VA's
Hmm.
website. After that, it was
Yep.
like easy. It was pretty much done. I was gonna say, like all the information and stuff that you did that we went over in those interviews and those questions and stuff like that, like getting that documentation from you was like vitally important because like they saw that, and then from there it was like it was just pretty much done. Especially like with what my doctor, was saying and recommended, as well as like with yours, it was just like okay, yeah, he's good to go. So
And
it
I
was pretty
think a key
seamless.
point of, your process that we use with a lot of people, and, it's a little bit more, I guess messy. It's not as straightforward, but doing the
Mm-hmm.
secondary connections, right? So taking
Yes,
something
sir.
like migraines, which, you didn't have a rating for, and GERD, you did not have a rating for, but with the DBQs and the work that you did and I did together, we secondary connected both migraines and GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease,
Yes,
to
sir.
your behavioral health, right? So I see that the VA typically gives people a very hard time, even if it's common sense that, hey, these are primary service connected issues that arose because of things and events and time in service. They're very
Yes, sir.
stingy and they're getting stingier. And that's why, having a behavioral health rating that's significant that most of us have or can have opens up
Yes, sir.
doors to take other very valuable components like your migraines, which you got 50% for, and GERD, which you got, a rating for, but I think it should have been higher, more than 10. What you got, you should have gotten 30. But, if we needed another angle, but getting those things, service connected is the game. That is it.
Yes, sir.
By doing the secondary connections with those DBQs, and just for everybody to understand, within a DBQ, and especially the ones I write, I use your evidence, I talk to you, do a new interview, make things happen on paper. But within that DBQ, I'm writing nexus statements, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get a little confused, is that if you go to certain VA CMP exams, they're not doing that, right? So that's where a lot of people say, well, yeah, they did my CMP exam, but it didn't get service connected, because that VA examiner doesn't care. They're not putting the time and effort to say their statement that they think it's service connected. So then people are dumbfounded when they get their results and say, well, how's that not service connected? And then they got to start figuring out how to get nexus letters to support that DBQ, when in fact, the DBQ could have had it in there to begin with if that person actually knew what they were doing and cared about you, right? So within our DBQs, which I looked at them this morning again to review, is both GERD and migraines, I made nexus statements saying that, hey, I think these things are service connected directly. However, I think that they're also directly and indirectly connected to the behavioral health. And I believe, after we get those together, what we like to do is advise you on what we think is a good angle, and like, hey, file these as secondary claims to your significant behavioral health, because the DBQ supports that, which is supported by the evidence. And like, I know I'm going through the nuts and bolts of stuff that you now know, but that's what it takes. If you miss any of those pieces, the evidence, the solid DBQ, with referring to that evidence, but also putting the right nexus statements, and then the back end help that you got and that we talked about, and everybody helped you out with Josh on the back end of how to claim it based on how your documents, both your evidence and your DBQs and nexus statements, whatever, what are they saying? Because then a lot of people will get claims that, they're claiming, but they don't know they're not claiming it the right way. Because if you hadn't maybe claimed it as a secondary, the VA might have just denied it.
They probably would have been exactly. It wouldn't have been service connected.
Yeah. So I'm proud of that, because we were employing that strategy more and more often, because I see a lot of people in that 70 to 90% range that have behavioral health ratings. So, I appreciate you sharing that background and, us talking about it a little bit, because I think there's a little bit of confusion because it's complicated. I mean, this stuff is unnecessarily complicated, but this is the system that we have. And unfortunately, I do not make the rules, but I learn the rules and I figure out how to beat the system being above board, right? That's the key. And all these pieces together, it's pretty unstoppable if I've got clients that can buy in and do that work with me, right? Because it really is a partnership.
I agree. I agree, because you do your part and then we have to do our part. And like I said, I tried the route beforehand, because my dad and some people were able to do it because they knew people like you, but old guys who's been doing it forever who are willing to help. But most of the time, those other people, they really aren't willing to help, or they really don't care. So it's just it just kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? And so that's why that last 10% going from 90 to 100 with all the benefits and stuff, it's you do have to find somebody like yourself or your company who's passionate, who really want to help people, because they'll just be I mean, you can try and you'll just keep getting denied, which kind of will make you not really want to do it again. So, because it is a long, drawn out situation, going through the V is long and drawn out. It's just annoying. But with working with your company, everything, it was really seamless and good. Everything flowed just right. Even with my doctor, with the medical evidence, my own primary care doctor agreed. If we could add his video call we're having now there, because he had the same thing. He was like, I totally agree. He was like, a lot of issues you are having like this, and that I think does come from this. And he did put other consults in there for me to have more studies and stuff like that done. That's why I said I like my doctor. He's very thorough. It's just my care team surrounding my doctor is not great. The nurses and stuff like that, they have a hard time following up or kind of doing what he asked, so to speak. So it's a little difficult.
Yeah, you're only as good as your weakest link, right? That's just a fundamental in sports or in business or in, healthcare, right? So, I think it's, in the end, it was a good result with you. Obviously we only spent about 3 months from start to talking to the actual result, which I think is really a good, fast timeline. So, I'm optimistic about, when I review people's results like you, I try to reproduce it in a way that makes sense, right? Because my job is not to be stubborn and this is how I do it mentality. It's the opposite. Even as an orthopedic surgeon, I struggle with not going angles personally because I love orthopedics and people have real issues. I just am a realist when I know how the VA receives these things, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
not going into dead ends when I know what we need, because the end result, the only thing that we care about M2M other than, being customer friendly, but we care about results, right? If I
Yes,
have to
sir.
tell people hard truths and if they're stuck up on their ankle and they say, well, my ankle needs to be rated higher. And I say, I agree with you, but we can, yell and scream and moan from the pulpit about it. But in the end, what are we doing? Right? We can't change the systems that we're in, that we're beholden to. That's why we structure the things we do, because I get the benefit of seeing thousands of people's ratings, right? So people like you, but 1,000 times over, people that have gone through the process before Mill to Millions that I don't know, but I get their ratings and I read through them, right? And then I look at their medical
Yes, sir.
records, and you see the pattern in what the VA does. And until the VA gets their act right and straightens everything out, it's a little more fair in some of the musculoskeletal realms. We're going to go where it's at. Common things like migraines and GERD and sleep apnea that people have, veterans have, commonly associated with service and behavioral health issues. That's where the majority of our action comes from the beginning. So I appreciate the time and the talk, man.
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed working
Yes,
with
sir.
you. You were
Of
very
course.
good at
Same.
organizing your data. That was big. Do you have anything to say to folks that might be questioning M2M and whether or not they should jump on board with our
Yes,
company?
sir. They definitely should. Like I said, like it's as soon as like you inquire, like the staff's very friendly and helpful. Everybody's there to see you succeed. You know what I mean? And the process is really fast. Like you said, like with the type of documents you write, like with the Nexus and the DBQs and all that stuff, like it flows and it seems like like you said, you study the game and you know exactly what they want and how to go about doing that. Because like it's almost like you and my primary care, like y'all were kind of saying the same things. And that's why I said it was like, yeah, he completely agreed about all of this. But I know, like, kind of like you said, it's sad that you'll need somebody like you or somebody like that who knows the game and can go around and play it the right way, but get you what you need. Because if you just try to go at it straightforward for what it is, you will not succeed. So, it's good to have a company like yours who people have your back and they want what's best for you and they'll get it done for you because they know how to go about doing it versus, you trying to do it yourself and just constantly getting rejected. So that's definitely good. And like I said, like with me, y'all helped me out a lot. And it wouldn't even took 3 months. It probably would have honestly took like maybe 6 weeks, maybe a month and a half, because I mean the longest portion, like I think you said, like we talked, I think in November, I had to wait about a month to get my appointment because they forgot about me and just when they could fit me in. So I'm saying it probably would have been done a lot sooner,
I agree.
which shows how effective like the notes and everything is, and like how effective y'all are as a company, like doing y'all job and getting things done. Because yeah, like I haven't had any issues. The longest part outside of them holding me up, like I said, was getting the medical documentation because they wanted me to like really trim it and trim it as best as I could. That part sucks. Unless you can
Yep.
go like so I did mine online through the VA app, but you can actually go like if you're close to like I guess one of the offices because like I told you, Hurricane Helene destroyed the facility where I was at, so it was close. You can go to the release of information office near where you are, and they can physically like print that stuff out, and maybe you could scan it in, or maybe they could send you a file. You can do that option. It just wasn't really an option for me because like what happened in my area. So that's why I had to do mine
And
online, and trying to trim it was awful.
I think it's, it makes a good point though. Trimming it down, getting the records. I have a lot of people that maybe don't have their complete records or the new records. And I tell people that it sucks. That's literally what I tell most people. I'm like trying to, make a new PDF with just your migraine stuff, for example, old and new
Yes, sir.
evidence. It's a pain in the butt. But in the end, I promise people it's worth it because of cases like yours, going through and doing
Yes, sir.
that annoying, tedious work when you don't really quote have time or the desire to do it matters, because you got to understand at the back end, the people receiving those packages, they're government employees that have no incentive and they just have a stack of papers and a quota to get through. And you better
Yes,
believe
sir.
it, if it's disorganized and 500 pages, do any of us really honestly think that they're going to take 2.5 hours going through your stuff?
No
Heck,
shot. Yeah, no shot.
they're not going to. And, God bless the ones that do, and they should. But that's why I think trimming it down like you did, like in the end, obviously we'll never know the exact reasons why you got 100, but I'd like to think it was, the good DBQs, but the good evidence and cleaned up. And look at that. It happens like
Yes,
that.
sir.
And so that's,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
proud of that, man. I'm really happy for you. You're going to do
Yes,
great
sir.
things, and having this
I
safety
definitely appreciate it.
earned is going to be awesome for you. And I'm
Oh
excited.
yeah, one more thing I could say to people who on the fence too. Do it as soon as possible because that thing y'all showed me, I think Devon or the lady that y'all had that told me to go ahead and get in there because like I was always trying to wait until the perfect moment to file because I think what you can do an intent to file within 2 years and have to back pay you from the day you click that is so helpful because I know I clicked the button in October, but honestly I've been trying to find like the right company, the right people to try to help for a while. And me being in grad school, I just it kind of got pushed on the back burner, but because the back pay and everything from that, man,
It's a game changer.
I honestly,
Game changer.
yeah, I
Right.
honestly felt like I did myself dirty, like I did myself a disservice, because but I didn't know. Those are things like you don't know, like, because even talking to older veterans or at least like my dad was 100%. My dad was in the military for a while, his friends and all that, like. They don't know because they don't know. It's not that people don't want to tell you, don't want to help you. They just don't know. And so you'd be like, wow, like, the first thing y'all did was start telling me things that would benefit me immediately. Like, hey, even if this could take a while or drag on, or if you got to work a different angle, do this now because once we do it doesn't work, they're going to owe you all this back. So just go ahead and start. And like I said, had I known that, because I've been at 90% for I think like almost 2 years, and I've been trying to get it like more because when I got 90% the first time, I thought it was going to be 100. But like you said, like some way with the math, even though like I think with a lot of my ratings, it was like in the 150, 160%, but somehow it was only like 90. So,
I've
just trying
used
to
the
figure it
example
out.
with a lot of people, but to use a gambling reference, when you go into a casino and you sit down at a table game and there's jackpots and oh, I can win $10,000 doing this, but the house always wins. The rules are slanted in the house's favor, and that's exactly how the VA does its math. And shame on them, frankly, for having it set up like that. And then disincentivize. They don't tell people about intent to files, how to file it. They leave that in the dark. They're not misleading people, but they certainly make it difficult to get records, to learn about this information. And, whether it's M2M or just, good old Reddit threads or Google searches, other companies that are spreading and veterans, it's individuals, right? Forget companies. It's
Yes,
all
sir.
of us sharing information. Like now we have a platform called School where we are talking about this stuff. And, the more people that know about this, whether they sign up for an M2M like consult and our services, the more people that know about this, the better. Like, I mean that.
Yes,
Like, I
sir.
love it because the reason I do this, it's not for a lot of money, because that's for sure. But the truth is that I enjoy fighting for the guys who are getting screwed over that have earned these benefits.
Yes, sir.
It makes me feel good. Like when the day
Yes,
I
sir.
found out you got 100%, I'm not even kidding you. I was riding so high on it. I'm like,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
I wondered
I could
sometimes
tell.
waiting.
And I'm glad too, like, cause it's like that's what I'm saying. Like, y'all enjoy our success too. It's like a mutual benefit, like like where y'all are truly on our side versus like you said, like I know this their job and they're supposed to, but government employees, like you said, they're not incentivized. They're gonna get paid the same, whether they do it thoroughly or not. And it's just like it
And
just
and
kind of it is
it's
what it is.
a cliche statement, but you do kind of get what you pay for in reality, right? Like even if there's
That's
well-intentioned
true.
people, like there's bias and there's incentive, right? And we have the incentive to get people to 100%, right? And we don't
Yes,
go
sir.
after people's back pay, right? But we tell everybody because it helps you guys maximize that pay. We're not touching that, right? Like for people that, let's say
Yes, sir.
somebody goes from 10% to 90%, right? Not your situation, but we had them an intent to file 11 months ago. Well, they're getting a 90% or an 80% increase back pay for 11 months. That's theirs, right? We don't touch
Yes, sir.
that. We don't structure our pay like that. We're going and we're doing flat rate. Maybe it's a little more upfront, so it's a little scary for some people, but we're not nickel and diming people. And I would rather people be happy at the end than maybe a little nervous and like, wait, I'm paying how much money? And wait, you're telling me I got to do something now? I got to go see a doctor. So I think that's where a lot of people get a little misconception early, is that, oh man, this is hard and it's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. Like reality in real life, like a couple $1,000s, like that's a lot of money. But then you look at somebody like your situation, been stuck at 90 for 2 years, and now you're getting within 2 months, like you said, even faster, 3 months, if we had an easier path with your logistics and stuff. But now you just got a $2,000 a month increase. You got a back pay for however many months. And now you've got PNT for the rest of your life. So, again, just do the math.
Amazing.
Everybody gets to 100 very quickly, but necessarily these increases are forever, potentially. And that's how we fight people. This pays off in a month or less.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, when me and my dad was talking about this, it was like, oh yeah, it was like, I mean, it'll pay itself off like the first check, literally. Like,
yep,
it'll literally pay itself off. And the best thing, like you said, the pay is good. It's the benefits. So,
absolutely.
And that's another good point too, like about like using y'all's company, because like doing the research, because I got fed up because I was like, all right, I don't know what to do. Like my combined rating was like high, but it wouldn't give me to 100%, and I was like, I have no idea. So I started trying to call the VSO in my area. They, I guess, were backed up. I had a lot because they're swamped with people trying to like you get that too. So wasn't really any help because I didn't really get any call back. And I start looking into companies like yourself. And like you said, that kind of actually Divine told me to do more research on them, like those companies, because he's like, yeah, like we just started a flat rates at most of these places. And I started asking, and they was like, yeah, well, we'll want the difference in pay, or we'll want like a percentage of your back pay. And then like I asked one of the companies, I was like, I think I did the math, and it was something like almost $8,000. I was like, 8,000? I was
Yep.
like, no, like $8,000. That is insane.
Agreed.
Like
And
you
they're
said,
not
it's
necessarily
like,
going to do it that right way, and it takes longer. And when I first came on to Mill to Millions, we had this talk, and that's why I love this company, is because I got a seat at the table, and we discussed these things, and it makes a lot of sense to put our incentive. We only want to get rewarded if we succeed, right? Now there are operating costs and bringing people in, but it's a flat fee. We fight for people literally multiple steps, and we're only incentivized to do what works, right? Because that's our model, right? If we got paid every time somebody went from 50 to 80, that's completely different. Even if we meant well, we have a bias to not care and draw things out. We are the opposite, but like, again, so we have a result bias, which is good. We want 100% for people, if they can get there. If it takes 1 month or 10 years, like that's our goal, right? Because we, as a company, that's our bias, we do better, right? But also we have an incentive because we're not a back pay type company. We're doing all that math and all that following and kind of shady stuff after the fact, leaving, a bad taste in people's mouth, or charging again when you refile something. Some people do that too. We do the opposite. Like, you're a part of the team forever, but we're incentivized, if anything, to do things quickly, but methodically. Right. So I think we have, I'm biased because I love the company and I believe in what we're doing.
No, I completely agree.
But we've set ourselves up to be, purely results driven and expeditious, which is the perfect balance.
Yes, sir. Because like I said, if they just simply do their research and just, call, ask, get a quote to start the process, they'll see, like you said, it is an investment and a commitment up front, but it's definitely worth it, because like paying 2,000, 2,500, whatever it is, you'll get all of that back as soon as you get your rating. And then, like you said, the other places, they're going to more than likely draw it out, because the longer you're there, the more they get a piece of your back pay, and they want a percentage, not flat. They want a percentage, and that percentage can be really large. And it's literally like, like it's like they're taking more from you. Like they get more than you at the end of the day. Like that split is not fair. That split is ridiculous.
And I think and when I got out about 1.5 years ago, I was working on my own just for some friends of friends. And I was looking at there's companies, like, what do they charge? Because I just wanted to charge a fair price and not a lot. And I realized, I called some of these law firms, and like, man, they exactly what you said. I did the math, just hypothetical, and go, they are fleecing people. But of course, up front, it's like, oh, it's free, $100 to sign up. But then, like, boom, they've got you on the hook. and they're ripping people off. And like, leave it to lawyers to rip people off. Like, we're not run by lawyers. We're the exact opposite. You got a MD veteran in the middle of it. You've got other veterans with some business sense and actually trying to build a product and a team that like does it right. And
Yes, sir.
so I'm pumped. I'll let you go about your day, man. I appreciate the time. I'm happy for you. Stay
Yes,
in
sir.
touch with me, please.
Yes, sir. We'll do. All right, bro.